All systems go as we are running behind schedule as usual, as we try and figure out what is happening out there in this international digital art scene, broadcasting here on YouTube internationally. Artist Journal, August 29th, 2023, broadcasting from inner space in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and we're never too late to not let the music play out in full form here. Tradscape, the artist, and just an awesome musician, awesome artist. So, speaking of awesome artists, here is Quampa. And I'm not sure exactly where Quampa is from. This is a zoomed-in version, and some of you have probably seen this. It went around a little bit yesterday, and maybe even a little bit the day before. It is hard to track everything here, but you see, Quampa was writing, these are the high-res versions. There are probably higher res. I mean, this was posted on Twitter. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's been minted anywhere, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of prices these get, because it's almost, again, these are using Microsoft Paint. So a couple of things. It brings up the question of pixel art. Is it pixel art? It looks like it's using a square brush, a lot of the areas, but then it brings up this issue of scale on pixel art. Should it be a certain size, for it to be pixel art? Does it kind of need to be bigger pixels? So it brings up that issue. So not sure. Would definitely fit in a digital show. It is unquestionably, unambiguously digital art. Another kind of interesting thing is, when you try and place it, what other kind of canonical artists do you think of? And you know what it feels like to me? And it's like very metaphorical, very analogical, not direct at all. But it's kind of like this fusion and more and different of Jackson Pollock and Basquiat. And, how do I see that? I see it just in the, almost like, it's very distant analogy here, granted. But just in this kind of covering the canvas, it's kind of like Pollock, and even the horizontal canvas, this kind of strange, unusual, very horizontal canvas here with this creature coming through. It is representational, but just in this kind of covering chaotically of the canvas, it's like Pollock. And then in terms of Basquiat, again, this is using Microsoft Paint, and you just feel like, using simple tools taken to an extreme. It just reminds me of Basquiat, the doodling. What was Basquiat at the end of the day? And he's many things, and I'm not an expert on Basquiat, but when I look at Basquiat's work, it's someone who is doodling in high school, and maybe elementary school, and high school, secondary school, and just kept doing it. And made it and did it so much that it became, quote unquote, high art, right? So here, I kind of see a similar just, doodling, having fun. It doesn't look like every one of these lines was planned out beforehand, does it? So just an interesting, beautiful work here by Quampa. So that is happening here. Some of my recent works I did on MS Paint, Quampa GM, really cool artist. We've shown their work before, and actually I think I have larger versions of these. And actually, this brings up another interesting point. So these were the lower res versions. At first, I thought, actually, put it this way, I quite like how they use the user interface as part of the art here. You see, this is the artwork basically on its own. I actually thought this maybe was the artwork here, the screenshot with actually the artist tools here. So hard to say. It actually looks like a newer version, or like a recent version, like the last version of Microsoft Paint, interestingly. And using the pencil tool here highlighted. So all to say, it's really interesting to see these user interfaces incorporated. As we see, oftentimes the artists do put the user interface into the work. Maybe we'll see Photoshop, maybe we'll see whatever is being used, KidPix, or whatever the case may be. So here are a few more. Let's run through this a little bit. And again, you see just this really nice kind of illustrative, looks like maybe using the fill tool a little bit. that the bucket tool, and you just see it's great that Quampa shared the high-res versions, and you just see all the detail and all the fun that is really being had here. It's a great style because the style enables a lot of experimentation and fun. Here it's tempted to think that perhaps there was like a layer underneath. I don't know if you have layers in Microsoft Paint. Interesting question. A little, some, I don't know if that's Japanese, Korean, some sort of script here from the East, and then a kind of a cool, almost, this looks like Ohm, actually, is what that is. That looks like, you have like the three. I listened to enough Goa Trance to be able to recognize the Ohm symbol, and I think that's an Ohm symbol in the middle of this kind of cosmic clock of sorts. So interesting composition, isn't it? Another framing device here. One of these, digital frames that we've been picking up on. And just, showing the fun here, finally. Isn't it great, this light beige on the frame here, and then using the dark beige on the frame here? I think that's awesome. So just really cool work here from Quampa. Continuing on, we have a couple of more, actually. So continuing kind of this cosmic clock sort of imagery, shall we say, as well as the monster imagery. And again, kind of not a pure white, looks like a beige or, light cream yellow white background. Sometimes the white can be too strong, right? So there is another, and here is another. We saw that in Santiago's abstracts, where, almost never there is like a white background, because it's like we were saying yesterday, it's almost like the contrast is too sharp. And here you see it kind of harmonizes better with a little bit of a cream background. And again, just these very fun, interesting doodles on their own. You might say, oh, that's interesting, but altogether it turns into a massive, epic piece. So you see the power of scale and ambition in a work, right? Again, if you take like one of these little things, you'd say, oh, that's a cool little sketch. Interesting, Microsoft Paint. You look at the whole thing and you go, wow, that's like an epic painting. That is an epic abstract. Again, we're kind of almost back to that Pollock analogy. So continuing on, so that is Quampa. Big, exciting show tomorrow. Ed Marola, who has been shown about 1 million times on this show over the months, is going to finally be on. So I'm thrilled about that. He's going to join Runertune and myself. So I posted this just about an hour ago here. So special guest Ed Marola on tomorrow's Spaces. So bring your questions and just have fun and hang out as usual. Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And thank you to Kyle Flemmer. To Kyle Flemmer. This was hilarious. Wake up, babe. New Pocobelli just dropped. Hilarious. And thank you. And just a lot of fun. It's great to see enthusiasm for the show. That makes me happy. Especially on days like this where I'm literally just running, just getting everything barely done with seconds to spare here. Continuing on, Stip and Pixel. Big shout out and thank you, Kyle Flemmer. A few comments on yesterday's show, Stip and Pixel. Thanks for talking about the composition aesthetics of the cat. That beautiful work. I like to hear this kind of analysis, and I was very used to technical analysis in design university. I like to explore new aesthetics, even if they are subtle changes that some good eyes may notice. This little change I make in different markets. And I think by different markets, what Stip and Pixel is saying is on different blockchains, I believe. For now, enjoying Zora and all its aesthetics. Beautiful. Yeah, so I'm trying to mint on Zora. There's so many options, I'm kind of getting confused. But yeah, I felt the need to, let's do something a little different for Zora. So just slightly different, not entirely. So yeah, so I hear you. Hopefully mine will finally be minted later today. Let's see. More to Spiral. Amazing. Glad to see Latin Americas in the Neutro drop. That is also on Zora if you're looking for it. They are on the homepage. Very good as always. Thank you, Sam. Keep up the good work. Van Rock, great Tezos art content. And Lorna Mills. Peter Wilde is a hoot. Glad to hear you know him. I remember him having a very hot German husband. And yeah, he was discussing his husband quite a bit, actually, that night. So it's kind of funny that you mention him. And, Yeah, I think he was saying he's a big collector of 19th century paintings. So they go around Germany to different auctions, Peter Wilde was saying, to collect these 19th century paintings. I said, that sounds like a ton of fun. He's like, it is. And Joshua Flynn, Lorna Mills is the goat. Continuing on. Popple replying, so discussing Fornax Void, and let me just bring up Fornax Void for you here. Fornax Void did this work here that we're looking at that I actually thought maybe was Tradscape, but maybe it's just Fornax Void. Another fun episode from Popple. Fornax Void's audiovisual works have been a big inspiration for me since 2016-ish. Amazing. Actually, it's one of the reasons I started to do digital art regularly myself. Amazing. I discovered Fornax Void when Vaporwave was super trendy, but immediately noticed something different in his work, a mixture of ravaging ecstasy and divine serenity in an introvert, technophile, retro manner, which I relate to very much. If electronic ambient music is a thing you enjoy, give his CSDB a try. So this is on Bandcamp here. So fascinating. I had no idea. And I just figured it was an alias of Tradscape, but apparently it's someone else. And here's Fornax Void's page. If you're wondering, ambient musician, visual artist, cyberspace druid, currently in cryo sleep, frozen away there. And you see the style. So it is his own style, but it is like a video game style, we might say. Definitely has his own spin on it. So very cool there, and that is still 7 Tezos and still 35 left on primary. So you still have a crack at getting it for $4.87 there. Ile, great show. Adrian, thank you so much for the shout out and congratulations. The main visual in the promo for the Unit London Emotions exhibition you mentioned at 1236 is Emi Kusano. Really excited to be included. So that is the image that we saw in the promo piece there in yesterday's tweet. And also, Santiago, thanks dear Pocobelli for featuring my work so much. The ratio that we were discussing yesterday of you see it's kind of like, looks like maybe a 16 by 9. The ratio comes from the screen and the browser tab, because these are made on the tools I make myself and run in a browser. So that explains the horizontality of the image. It is the browser tab and the screen. Speaking of screens, AntXX at lots of NFTs here managed to compress my 287 megabyte Rafiq Anadol Winds of Yawanawa piece enough to fit my mural frame, and wow, it looks amazing. So Rafiq Anadol is the artist who was showing in the entrance to the Museum of Modern Art in New York, doing that massive AI piece that you see is kind of very similar to this. And I guess Rafiq released a series on OpenSea, and I actually brought it up here. And actually, let's just look at these. Winds of Yawanawa by legend Rafiq Anadol has become a phenomenon, with many collectors now comparing it to other legendary collections. I saw it being compared to Fidenza, so the speculators are going wild here. It is a unique, awesome-looking 60-second animated NFT, and if you buy now, you still get one amazing, unique signed print. So, interestingly, selling the prints with the NFTs, so interesting combination here from Rafiq Anadol. And just to give you an idea of what's going on here, 70, like the lowest amount for one of these is now $12,000, and you can see the work here. And so this goes on for, I believe, a minute. I think there's volume. So kind of soothing, abstract. And let me just show you the market, because it is fascinating. I mean, I was looking at the activity here. So again, the lowest price right now is about, what is that? $12,000. And so if you look at how it's gone here, in the last day, they've sold about 6 at around $10,000, $11,000. And you scroll down, and the last few days, but you see, then it was at maybe $9,000. Then 4 days ago it was at $8,000. So the series is really kind of catching fire here, $5,000 a week ago. And so you see it's quite a lot of probably now speculation now on this work. Is down at 3 ETH at $5,000 17 days ago. You see it was at $3,000 only 17 days ago. So not even a month old. And if you bought one of these for, $3,000, you'd be sitting pretty right now. And they were even, so they had actually been at 5,000, went down to 3. So just interesting market movements. I mean, that's pretty significant to see big sales like this, especially in a bear market. More physicals here. Here is Rinnifish with, it's really interesting to see what she's doing here. So she is really cool music here. I'm going to mute it just in case of copyright, but painting the frame here. So another, really interesting, inventive way of showing your digital art here. And, almost getting similar colors, right? These kind of neons, even doing almost like a slightly airbrushy kind of style or look. You see the purple there, just kind of letting things bleed through, just like the pastels that you'll see in Rinnifish's work. So very cool there. And also, here is NFT Biker. And Tornado Rodriguez, big shout out, sent this to me saying, look, I don't know if you realize NFT Biker makes pen plotting works. And so here it is, in case you're wondering. After 2 months without plotting, it took me 3 tries to plot this one right, Uniball signed broad on black A4 paper. So how cool is that? So I simply have to get one of these. I keep on looking from the sidelines here in amazement. And look, I mean, even just this idea that you can get such strong colors on black paper, it's not as easy as that looks. You got to really get the right pen. So, very interesting to see. So NFT Biker makes art and also does pen plotting. Probably a lot of you knew that, but I didn't know that. So I thought I'd share it here. Auguste Ground with a really interesting comment here. Just spent an hour sharing artwork from Tezos artists with a trad collector I know. It literally blew her mind. I saw the crazed look that overwhelms people who love art when they realize they can collect some of these gems. It's quite mind-blowing because you just simply don't expect it to exist until you see it, until you recognize it. You can even see it for a while and not understand what you're seeing. That happened to me. Okay, for months, 2 or 3 months, I was on Object before I kind of realized what I was seeing and understood the sophistication. So very interesting. Kind of makes you kind of bullish, doesn't it? So just really interesting comment from Auguste Ground, and more Tez natives conquer Zora network. So here's the Zora homepage, and there you see Yuri J, Walk, Stippen Pixel, Ricano, LB, Santiago, all on Zora. Hopefully Pocobelli tonight. We shall see. Just a couple of questions left here. And finally, some merch. The man, the myth, the legend, the myth, and Krypton XYZ, or a crypto native brand inspired by the ethos of the crypto community. I'm not positive, but I think they did the Uxine drop too. And so here, look at that. I love how they used the clouds. This is awesome. And here's the iconic lemon head here. And this is where you buy it. Mikey de la Creme posting this. And of course, Mikey's probably already got his. And look at this. A hoodie here with a lemon head, Myth lemon head on it. So really nicely done here. Hey, Myth fans, grab your favorite artist's mask hoodie, available now at krypton.io. So you can get merch. Pretty cool. Look at this really gorgeous work here by Kujeb, also known as Hasdrubal Waffle, Scanner 64. So another Scanner's work. This one is quite beautiful, I have to say. It's painted so beautifully, you almost ignore the subject matter of the exploding head. This background here, and then this great, beautifully, carefully painted suit here of this person. It's quite beautifully painted here. So just another stunner as the eyeball flies away here from Hasdrubal Waffle. It does make, or from Kujeb, and it does make you wonder if more than one software is being used here. Maybe one for the kind of beautifully painted figure here. And another for this really beautiful, simple background. Really smart background there, just beautiful gradient. It's beautiful. Edition of 6, and some people got lucky and picked them up for like 16 Tezos on the auction and everything. So just really cool. Edition of 6. Get one if you can. Anxiety Carousel, a cool 1 of 1 from Martin Joe. And of course, Martin Joe has taken Ed Marola, who's going to be on the Spaces on Wednesday, has taken the pixel art masterclass on YouTube. And so now Martin Joe, by virtue of that, is able to make pixel art, and really interesting pixel art with this cool chair and this figure. It's even got a little bit of a, I want to say like Lenora Carrington kind of feel to it here, and kind of a surreal work. Nice kind of dithered gradients here in this room, flat floor for contrast, and even the painting in the background moving too. Interesting kind of moody blood on the side. Cool work. Very cool work from Martin Joe. PP Universal with an interesting piece. Seas, Mazes, and Vietnam, so maybe that's Spanish. And again, playing with these outlines filled with patterning. And it looks like maybe, I don't know what that is, a donkey, perhaps? And you see just an interesting original composition here with some interesting patterning. Interesting choice to leave the floor blank here. Let's just see, 8 Tezos edition of 5. There are 2 left. Santiago with another abstract here. Art made with tools I made using P5JS and ChatGPT. And I also used GIMP and Aseprite in some parts of the process. So using all sorts of tools here, including ChatGPT, probably to do the coding to create a drawing program, I assume, to help make this. So just interesting, and kind of has a bit of a different feel to it. Nice kind of squiggles here. Also has a bit of a Pollock sort of feel in the canvas size and ratio, as well as just the kind of chaos, the balanced chaos. So very cool there. Another abstract. This is from Luciana Guerra. GM, another week, another opportunity, art wins. And I'm not sure if this is new or not, but I thought it was nice, and I don't think we've seen it on this show before. So just another cool abstract here in our show to match with the other abstracts that we have here. Here's Hervé, Dr. Hoodoo 1, and this is generative art and P5JS. So also using some sort of coding here, and just an interesting abstract here. It almost looks physical, doesn't it? But this is digital, and that is by Hervé and Flora Marquez with a new work, a stamp, Morandango Republic Blue Hand. And this was just released in an edition of 20. There are 14 left at 3 Tezos each. Interesting addition of texture into the mix, and a hand with a rose that is cutting the hand here. As you can see, the blood, a thorny rose, wild rose, maybe you'd say, with some little butterflies and bugs, beautiful textures, and some bubbles in the air for atmosphere. Pretty interesting piece here by Flora Marquez, new Morandango Republic work. And this was on 01.art, so just interesting art everywhere these days. This is by, where is the artist? New in Town. And 1 of 15 editions, I think, left. A combination of code and AI, used M-Props, Open Studio Alpha with SDXL, artist New in Town. So let's just take a look here. And so interesting. So this isn't just drawn out. This is using a little bit of code, I think. So very interesting. And AI, combination of code and AI, really nicely done. Kind of feels like a bit of a woodcut, doesn't it? And a work by Jake Studios. You can be anything you want, digitally drawn animation. So interesting piece here with these great kind of, pixelated clouds of sorts, these kind of illustrated pixelated clouds, really nicely done there. Either making it look easy here, actually. An interesting frame. And here, this seems to be a commentary of sorts of this person who can do anything they want, but they don't seem too happy. and they are trying to kind of fly, but it's not working out. Not sure what the interpretation is, but interesting commentary here. A 1 of 1 for only 5 Tezos. So if you collect 1 of 1s, you can get a Jake Studio for a very low price. RJ with a GM, so just another RJ. Just everything looks beautiful. This looks like a work in progress, I assume, with this great retro computer here. It looks like maybe a Commodore 64 or something like that. Great square monitor here. And then a window, almost like pairing these up like they're, windows, they're almost commenting on each other, shall we say. And also with this square, maybe it's not a work in progress. You see this almost like square frame here, and almost like a window of sorts with these drapes, and just kind of interesting dialogue going on between this object outside this kind of square here and the picture inside. Just really interesting work and color, by the way. And look at this screen here too, just in RJ's like beautiful pixel art style, as you see that nice jagged, computer keyboard. More pixel art with Chaz, continuing the retro software or retro game devices. So this looks like a PlayStation here, but with a tiny screen on top. Maybe this is like some sort of rare edition that you could put on your PlayStation, like in a portable way. Not exactly sure. Harvest Moon farming and life simulation game. So almost like I don't know if I'd call it like a Sims-like game where you plant, and kind of a slower paced game inside here as the farmer plants their field within this, video game device that is portrayed with pixel art. And, you see the floorboards here and everything. Interesting commentary. Buy now for 3 Tezos. There are 8 left. And Element Lee with another experimental pixel art work. This is called Line. And again, just really, it's always interesting here. I think these are made on an iPhone too, which is actually probably part of the secret to getting these as they are. Because if you're working, with a pencil, maybe it would be harder. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure on their profile it says experimental pixel art if you go to their Twitter on a phone. So just another interesting work here. Almost looks like a fish or a rocket ship here. Interesting squares, right? The lines aren't perfect, maybe again done with a finger rather than, a perfect mouse, so just interesting work as usual from Element Lee, experimental pixel art. This was really cool too. Sergeant Slaughtermelon, and this is I believe a collaboration with Kit Velo. One of the rare Kit Velo collaborations from this project. I'm realizing I can change, and so again, Sergeant Slaughtermelon, I believe, is the artist who's been kind of reappropriating these Windows 95 windows or user interface, areas, and putting in new text. It's not what I thought, comfortable things. So just a really interesting kind of repurposing. It's scary, but it's the beauty of life lived free. And then I think that's Kit Velo in the background. So actually quite a nice match, these two artists. Mimi Nguyen, have you ever wondered if Kristen Roos Paintbox City was a real building? Look at how beautiful this is. So I think this is a preview. Pretty cool, isn't it? Again, look at that. Again, it sounds kind of simple, but this big pixels contrasted with little pixels is actually not that common of a thing to see. Usually when you're doing pixel art, it's kind of all the same size, oftentimes the size of the pixels. So it's quite effective when you get these contrasts here. I really love the ground too. And it looks like it's done manually, interestingly. But I mean, this was basically very similar to the grass you would see in Ultima 4 from the 1980s. So it kind of evokes those 1980s video games, but it's not exactly, because again, this looks like manually done, where the other was like the stamp, of the same little 16 by 16 or 32 by 32 bit square. So interesting work from Kristen Roos, probably a new series coming out. Ricano. with a new work here, Like a Me. And I have a friend, actually, part of the reason I'm rushing so much is so I can have dinner with my friend Bob tonight, who has a Leica. And I'm sure he would love this camera here. And so just a cool work. Nice subject matter as usual by Ricano there, and some nice dithering in this, animation of sorts. This kind of pixelated animation. Like a Me, edition of 10 for 5 Tezos. There are 3 left. And 8so with a couple of cell phones here. It's great. It's kind of fun when things are educational. So it's very fun with 8so's cell phone. You kind of learn the history of cell phones a little bit as you go through the series. And so here's the CMH333 by Sony. Even a little write-up might be nice, even if it's taken just from ChatGPT on where, what this phone, the history of this phone. Anyway, beautiful work here and beautiful phone and nicely done. Again, filling in the outlines here from 8so, a 1 of 1, probably 25 Tezos, nice and cheap, went to Hans. And here is a different one, the P800 by Sony Ericsson from 2002. Here we have a date. And so just another really great in here. Just some beautiful noise. It's this beautiful melding of representational and abstract by, again, kind of like we see with PP Universal, as well as other people who, when they just use the outline as an opportunity to fill it with something interesting. And so here, it's a nice, simple technique. Here, 8so is taking the screen and then filling it with some beautiful abstract noise. Really cool, doing it with the phone buttons, even with the edge here. So just some masking, right? Very cool. So that is still available for 25 Tezos. Xmortal, as we zoom through the show, boundless, and just a nice portrayal of what looks like the Earth's atmosphere, kind of glitched out. So I thought this was quite poetic, isn't it? Because it's a scene we've all seen many times, this planetary atmosphere. But here, given the glitch treatment, there's something kind of big picture about this. Just very cool. Boundless, nice title too. Oh, this is the moon. The moon looks so nice. Okay, so VHS and CBV, so some physical analog gear, one assumes. Xmortal for 3 Tezos. There are 9 left on primary. I thought this was kind of hilarious. I think Sabato may have retweeted this. Hypertext is not technology, but literature. And I found this hilarious because my old advisor at the University of Saskatchewan, who is actually president of the University of Saskatchewan, Peter Stoichev, in the 90s, I started university, I think, in 97, 96. And he was like a hypertext expert. So I was like, so it is like a literary term. It's not just it was something that kind of became a thing in literature. So I kind of brought this up and I thought it'd be interesting. What does the literary term hypertext mean? I asked ChatGPT 4. And it's quite interesting. The term hypertext refers to a system that links documents together by clickable text, allowing the reader to jump from one document or section to another. So basically what happened is in the 90s, literary scholars are starting to see the internet, and you can kind of jump through with links basically on text, and they started to theorize about it. This system is widely used in the digital realm, especially on the internet. Web pages often contain hypertext links, typically highlighted or underlined, that when clicked lead to other web pages or different sections of the same page. And here's the literary context. In a literary context, hypertext can be used to describe narratives that aren't linear and can be navigated in multiple ways depending on the reader's choices. So it's exactly for those that know the Choose Your Own Adventures books. This allows for a dynamic reading experience where the reader can choose their own path through the narrative. Think of Choose Your Own Adventure books, but in a digital form where the story can branch in numerous directions based on hyperlinks. The concept of hypertext challenges traditional notions of linear storytelling and has been the subject of much discussion in the fields of literature, philosophy, and digital culture. The possibility of nonlinear reading and branching narratives can transform the way stories are told and experienced. So I don't know if hypertext is still popular to discuss, but it was definitely a thing in the late 90s. I remember there were posters around campus. I think they had a whole conference on hypertext, which is hilarious in retrospect. But I'm not an expert, so maybe there are tons of interesting things going on in hypertext recently. I don't know. Zoom with a beautiful AI one of one as we go into the artificial intelligence section. Look at this. So more, novel imagery using AI. So interesting outlines here. A touch of Matisse, but then almost a touch of Tukes as well. And you see this beautiful kind of blurry sun and everything. So just an interesting contrast here between these kind of four objects in the foreground, these almost plant pots, and then nature in the background. So you see it's almost like a window of sorts with maybe some water, and then there's a lake. Interesting work, isn't it? Again, it's just like the promise of AI. It's like we really see things that people would probably never have made. Post rooms number 1. I have been examining the relationship between postmodernism and AI art under the titles of creativity algorithms, destructive constructive approaches, and who is the creator of art for a long time. In this process, I thought that the room paintings I obtained through artificial intelligence are actually postworks of the new generation art. For this reason, I decided to bring such a series together with you here with the title that should be in this period when we create the art of the future. Interesting. So continuing our kind of literary discussion here, Zoom with a super cool one of one for 100 Tezos. And some physical work as we wrap up here. I think it was Santiago that retweeted this out. This is Rogerin, image making, movement searching. So I'm not sure if I've seen too much physical work. And you see it's on create.community, which I'm not familiar with. Drugstores look like cities on shelves. And this is on Create platform. So we're building an artist-first platform, making Web3 accessible to indie artists from all over. So the competition continues in the art marketplace world. It is Create platform, so another platform. Quite fascinating to see how this is all going to shake out. And of course, you recognize probably who this is and what this is. This looks like the man, the quote-unquote the man from Cider's work that we saw on Wikipedia, and there it is. This man, this is from 2021, 7-day open edition, 0.01 ETH. Having a ton of fun on Zora here. There's Walk, GM with my brand new drop via Arzora for 0.01 ETH. And there it is. Again, just masterfully spray painted here. Masterfully done. Totally recognize it. Making it look easy. And another great artist here, Joao Salazar, with only a reserve of 0.25 ETH. And the buy now price was removed. So just a reserve of 0.25 for this beautiful plasticine on canvas work by Joao Salazar. So another super cool work. Again, a common theme throughout this entire show is retro computer technology, the kind of the iconography of technology, the vision, of technology, whether it's the hardware, the screens, there's Twitter, and then done in plasticine. A wonderful mingling of sorts. Just beautiful work from Joao, and as this almost reminiscent of those ribbons that you would connect a printer with back in the 80s. So anyways, very cool work. Great color too, by the way. Interesting choice. This beautiful pink, the X up there, just really great work. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you very much for joining me. And until tomorrow at the Twitter Spaces, where you can hang out with Ed Marola, Runertune, and myself, and just hang out and ask questions of all you want of the great Ed Marola. Come check it out. Until next time, take care.